use a trim tool or a screwdriver, but I like to use the trim tool. That way I can just go like that. So that's what that tag does. That pin goes down in. If you have a clip like this, I use this kind of body tool, and then you just grab both sides, squeeze, and you can pull the tag right up. So first thing we're going to do, 10mm wrench, disconnect the negative terminal side of the battery. Set it aside, make sure it doesn't pop back up and ground out. Now with a pair of pliers, we're just going to remove our hose clamps on the two hoses connected to the radiator overflow tank. Just give a pull. If they're stuck on there, I like to bring it to the second notch and loosely grab it and pull. Being careful not to puncture the rubber with the pliers. Now we need a socket for a 10mm socket for 1 and 2 mounting bolts. There's one. Second one. And you lift your tank right up. Remove the right front tire, 21mm socket. We're going to remove the inner fender shield right by the drive belt area. I'm going to use a body tool and just like to pop these clips right out. Down below 2. Continue taking down your shields from underneath. So to loosen the Serp belt, it comes with a hectagon shaped for a 19mm socket on the tensioner. So you're going to put a 19mm socket on there and you're going to pull down and compress the shock and take the belt off. I'm going to disconnect it from the water pump. It's the easiest one because it's a smooth tensioner. A smooth pulley, shall I say. Come right out. So with a floor jack and a piece of wood on it, so you don't dent your oil pan, you just want to support the engine enough so when you undo the motor mount, it won't drop. I'm going to take this ground strap out of the way. And then I've got 2 mounting bolts here, 17mm socket. And then I have 3 mounting points, 1, 2, and 3 for this motor mount. Take this strap off with a body clip tool. You just remove this real quick. $14mm socket. Going to take off the bottom nut on the strut part of the tensioner. So to remove this stud, it's an inverted Torx, and it's called an E10 socket. Quite simple, just loosen it right up. Now with a 14mm wrench, you're going to take the bolt out of the pivot part of this tensioner, and we can jack our engine up to get that bolt to clear that body so we can take the tensioner out. Just need to add it a little bit like that, then you can pull that bolt right out. So now we're going to take our new tensioner and guide it right in. And we'll go up on the top and put the bolt back in. So now we can install the upper bolt again. Start it by hand. So there is no torque for this because it is a free floating pivot. So I'm going to say snug it like that. We should be good. So now I'm going to take the lower end stud, line that up, and then get my E10 inverted Torx and tighten it up. And there is no torque specs for this. We're just going to, once it bottoms out, we'll turn it about half a turn. Perfect. Now we can put the nut on, and that's a 14mm socket. Once it bottoms out, snug it up. So now we're going to run the Serp belt, put it back on. I'm going to run it down below the crank, harmonic balancer, and the AC. Now I'm going to decompress the tensioner. Best bet is to try to get it over the alternator and slide it back over the water pump. Now before you reassemble the mount and start it up, take a quick look and make sure that all the ridges are lined up on every pulley and they're not one off. Now we're going to reinstall our mount before I lower the engine. Let me see if I can get it in there a little bit easier. Now I'm going to install the hardware. I'm going to put the nut in first. That long bolt is going to go right into that bracket. Everything hand tight first. These are fine threads, so it will cross thread easily. And it's rather important, you don't want it to cross thread. So these inner two bolts, nut and a bolt, is 38 foot-pounds. And then these back ones are 70 foot-pounds. Now we can put this ground strapping on. I'm going to put the top hose on first and the bottom hose on. Make sure they go all the way in flush. And I'll start my two mounting bolts. One there, one back here. Tighten it down. Reattach your clamps. And the bottom one. I like to line it up the way the grooves, you can see where it was sitting before. I have had them leak if they don't sit exactly where they were. Now we're going to just take the cover off and add coolant to the system. Look up your manufacturer's specs for the ratio of coolant strength. Now we can install the upper decorative cover and start from this side, and you can work your way over with the pins. So I'm going to put my two push pins like this, one there, and then one here, and then I'll put the rest of my pins in all the way around. Now we can put our inner skirt in the fender well, right in there. Put the top pins in. If you have bottom pins, go ahead and put those in too. Mine were missing. So now these tabs have to go up underneath the bumper cover. So just fold them. Go all the way across. And now we can put our bolts back in. Put the front tire back on. Tighten your wheel up, just snug it up. We're snugging it because the wheel torque is only 76 foot-pounds on this RAV. Torque in a star pattern. Double check. Now the job's done, we can reconnect our negative terminal. 10mm wrench or socket. Make sure you tighten it and it doesn't have any movement to it. Make sure that it's pushed all the way down too. You want to see the crown of the negative battery terminal sticking up.